In this lesson, we're going to be talking about switching users. Switching users is actually a pretty common and useful task. I would switch users in order to get more direct access to their files, for example, without having to jump through some hoops. Or in the case of working with databases, maybe I would switch to the database user in order to get access to the database without having to jump through some additional hoops. This is not to say that I would be bypassing security. As an example, I'm going to switch to the user Rick, and it's going to prompt me for a password. I'm going to enter Rick's password, and I would then be authenticated as Rick. I'm just now that user. You can see that I am actually logged in now as Rick, and that's actually showing up in my prompt here. However, I am still in Kilroy's home directory. If I do an ls there, I'm going to get permission denied. So let me dump out of there. In order to fix that, well, first of all, I could have just changed directory out, but what I could also do is add a dash, and that says pick up all of the profile settings for that user. Now you can see that I am logged in as Rick, and if I do a print working directory, I am actually in Rick's home directory now, and I am logged in as Rick. This is also effective if I need to get root level permissions, so I could just do su. That's going to give me root permissions, and I'm going to have to log in as the root user. Now you can see the prompt has actually changed. I get the hash here, or the pound sign, that's indicative of being logged in as root, and if that weren't clear enough, it just says root over here. Now if I do a who am I again, I get root as the response. What I didn't do there was I didn't give the dash sign. If I do su dash, it's going to ask me to log in again. I am root, and I am now in root's home directory. Now, not only am I root, but I have all of the permissions that root has. Anything root can do, I can do. For example, I could edit the shadow file, which I wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And I can go into the log directory, and I could take a look at one of the files, which I otherwise wouldn't be able to do. So I get all of the permissions that the particular user I have switched to would have. Big advantage to doing su. If I were to su to Rick, I can see all of the files that are in Rick's home directory. I can actually go into the directory here, and if I wanted to, I could actually make a file. So I get all of the permissions for the user I have switched to. Again, it's a really useful thing. We'll see some of it later on as we go through, where I might be switching to a particular user in order to pick up their permissions so that I could actually do some changes. That may be useful for database, for managing a web server, for example, or a number of other tasks that you may have on your system. So su is a really common and useful tool. And again, you can see the different parameters that we use. And here's the dash. You could also do -l or --login. Means that we're actually doing it as a login shell, so we're going to pick up all of the environment variables and all of the settings for the new user.